Okay, Chambers is unmuted and we are live.
Very good. Thank you, Amanda. Okay, everyone, I'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
And I will add that.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this point, I'll entertain a motion for the minutes. Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. I assume there's no discussion, so all in favor? Opposed, carried. We have no appointments, so we'll start with Mr. Camardo. Mr. Batman's not here, but
You have a report, any questions? I'd be happy to answer the questions, but it's just been a little busy of a month, so.
Mr. Basile.
So got the report here and a number of people read all that. The voting, I'd like to, by the full ledge meeting, have what it costs the county for early voting per vote versus what it costs to vote on voting day. Just even for this primary as an example. And then I'll let you know what I'm gonna do with that information afterwards.
All right, so
Just to be clear, early voting for primary.
Early voting just for the primary, what was the cost per vote?
and then we'll divide by the number.
Taxpayers
Okay,
to have that 10 days. And what was the cost per vote? Because really that's what it is. I think we had one set up here right at the,
we had the Board of Elections, two other sites.
yeah, but someone had to have, someone had to be assigned and
Yep,
attended.
yep.
And then what did it actually cost on voting day?
I'll get that
Which
information.
was probably not that inexpensive either, since there was a lot of primaries. Just interested.
I'll get you that information as soon as possible.
Any further questions? Yes, ma'am.
John, can you explain what the incomplete requests are on your accounts for registrations? We see it every month and I've always meant to ask about it.
Let me find out if I can.
Yeah, no problem.
Counts.
Yeah,
Requests.
Yeah,
Requests,
there's
okay.
95 of them. I guess they're incomplete.
I didn't know if they were the ones that stem from DMV or.
I'll find out, just so I make sure you get the correct information for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we got two questions for Commissioner Camardo. Any further?
I'll get those to you, Chris, as the chair,
Sure.
refer them to you.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
or would you, will you be here at the,
Everybody, or how do you want me to do it?
well, were you planning on being here for the full ledge?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, either way, let's have a discussion about those
I'd
numbers.
like to see the numbers before the full ledge meeting. please.
Okay, and
And
then,
if I get them, make sure I have them before, let's see, Ways and Means is next week. I'll definitely have them so we can do a presentation next week. Would that be okay, Hans? Would it be okay if we did this presentation next week for Ways and Means?
Sure.
Okay, great. Is that okay, Jim?
Yes,
Yep. thank you.
absolutely. Thank you.
all right, any further questions for Commissioner Camardo? All right, hearing none. Mr. Camardo, you have one resolution that's just to accept the cybersecurity grant. Before we have discussion, oh, go ahead. If there's something.
Just a grant from the state, and would be working with the IT department for cybersecurity.
All right, let's have a motion and a second, please.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. I guess I would just ask Tom, anything you wanted to add to that or any concerns or anything?
No concerns at all. I think it's pretty straightforward. We actually had the grant issue last year as well. We have a plan identified how we're going to roll out those funds. So they're going to
Very good.
working closely with those.
All right, thank you. Further discussion on GO1. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Camardo. I know you have a busy evening.
Thank you.
So next is Sheila. She's been excused. Amanda, anything you want to add from the clerk of the ledge?
No, just a reminder to the legislature of the sexual harassment training at the ledge meeting at 4:45. And then we will be doing the picture at 5:15. And that's it.
Thank you. I just want to see if I can submit my training from the state because it's fun.
Yes, and we can.
Okay.
Yeah, just go ahead and submit it to Diane, Chris.
Okay, thank you. As fun as it is, I think once is enough. Mr. Palermo, with the county attorney's office, do you have anything to add before Fred takes us away?
Just Medicaid, child support, adult protective, child protective. That's been the month.
And busy indeed. All right, thank you, sir. Fred, you wanna, I thought it might be because we don't have two, cursing myself here or jinxing myself, but we don't have too ambitious of an agenda. So I thought Mr. Westfall could bring us up to speed. He has I'm assured it's a brief presentation.
I have said
That about the, because the department heads were questioning, well, go ahead, sir.
So I'll echo what Mr. Palermo said. So the office was tasked with the question about if there's a position that's budgeted through the year and it becomes vacant, can the legislature adopt a policy whereby the department heads fill that position during the year without coming back to the legislature for a resolution? So that's kind of what we're here to discuss. There is a real rough draft of a resolution attached at the end of the agenda. That's the discussion only. So there's a brief presentation. Presentation is basically to remind the legislature that your budget process is a real good way to manage your workforce. You can create positions in the budget and you can also defund or unfund those positions in the budget every year. So keep that in the back of your mind as we move through the discussion about the filling of vacant budgeted positions through the year. It can be done fairly easily. It would just be a policy. One of the questions that has come up in the discussion that we had internally was, does the legislature looking to have a sunset provision such that every year that authority lapses and it will be up to the next legislative body to pass a resolution authorizing the department heads to fill any vacant and budgeted positions? So that's kind of the other side of the coin that came up. That does permit the legislature to have some amount of control over the decision-making process. So if it would be a bad budget year, you wouldn't have to worry about revoking the policy because it would be up to the legislature to pass that authorization.
All right, so before we go to questions, I guess I would just say my thought process on this is it may be the best course of action, but I want to try to avoid the law of unintended consequences. So I think we should digest this and not jump to any conclusions. So not that we can't have any discussion, Mr. Basile. I just thought that let's not jump to like trying to pass this tonight. So having said that, Mr. Basile.
Well, I'm glad you, but I'm not a voting member of this committee. I just attended. But
Oh, you carry some weight.
I had a curiosity question about, and I don't know if I didn't hear it correctly. You mentioned the sunset provision.
Correct.
So that it didn't lapse. You mentioned that it can be controlled by the, maybe not control is the wrong word, but managed by the budget process. Does the sunset provision put it to the next legislative group anyways? And then you mentioned, or, and I'm not sure if you meant that it could be carried over or not carried over.
So there are a bunch of examples, and some of them have been used in the county throughout the years. One was that if a department head wanted to create a new position, it could only be done through the budget process. And then they created some exceptions, and then it became more of a regular process. So the reason I brought up the budget process is the budget process is a good way to manage your workforce by deciding as part of that process if you want employees, if you want to reduce employees, if you want to create positions. It can also be done through the year. And that's kind of pushed this discussion in a slightly different direction, but I just wanted to put that out there. If the legislature passes a policy that says, and I'm making something like that, during the year 2024, if there is a vacant budgeted position, any department head can fill that position without coming back to the legislature. That could be done on a fiscal year basis, so that on December 31st, that authority would lapse, and the legislature would then have to decide, starting in January, February of the next year, whether to grant that authority or not. So that's what I was trying to get at.
Okay. Thank you.
And some members of the group thought that was a good idea. Others said, just leave it up to the budget process. So that's part of the reason to bring it to this group so they could discuss it.
And of course, it's a policy decision, so it could be reversed at any time.
That's correct.
If we felt it wasn't going that way, all we'd have to do is vote against it, changing the policy.
That's correct.
Sir?
Repeal the policy, repeal the resolution. Sorry.
So one of the challenges I had with the budget was I could never figure out the number of employees we had, the potential number of employees we were going to have. And throughout the year, my first year, I heard all the time, well, we're going to pay with this because we had a budgeted position that we never filled. So we're going to use that money to do something else, which makes me believe or tend to believe that the department heads are smarter than you think, because they're adding positions maybe they know they're never going to fill, so that they can do other stuff during the year. How do we get that into the budget process? The exact number of employees that each department has, because I couldn't seem to get my hands around that.
Clerk has 23.
And, excuse me, I'm speaking. The exact number of employees we actually have on hand, I know, and then, well, some are part-time, my head was spinning when I was done. And how many positions are budgeted that are unfilled? Is there a line item for that? Budgeted unfilled positions?
I don't think it's, and again, I can get the exact answer for you. I don't want to guess.
And I don't want you to. I don't want it to be a guess. I'd like to know the exact answer. And if there's a legislator in here that knows the answer, please feel free to speak up. Thank you. All right. we'll
I
move
mean,
on.
we always can tell you exactly how many positions are budgeted. Any given day of the year, someone has quit. And we don't have a software system currently right now to monitor that. So when you ask me how many people work here right today, it's not an easy answer to tell you that. So we're not trying to keep information from you. We don't have it. So I actually like the sunset clause as the person who does the budget, because we used to have a thing, I called austerity, right? And every year the legislature would pass it because it's going to be tough. And you then would have to have resolutions to spend almost any money to purchase things. And we stopped doing that because the budget has been in a much better position. I call this anti-austerity, what you're trying to pass, because things happen so slowly sometimes in the performance of the budget that if you don't want to ever have to lay people off, and slowly things are not going well, the sales tax goes down and down and down and down, let's say, right, month after month, you might suddenly be like, well, maybe we can't fill that clerk in the county clerk's office. No, they really feel that they need it, and they probably do. But then the hard decisions have to start getting made. Well, what happens is that all the positions are filled and you had no option to make, when the budget's looking tight. I'm not saying in good years that you wouldn't pass this, because then you're maybe feeling more comfortable. We don't want to micromanage. We're proving them all anyhow. So why are we doing all this, right? All this work. And that's why I think this conversation came up. So
Right.
I actually had Fred put it in there and say, let's see the conversation about it, having a sunset. And then people can just repass it again, because as much as you can, you're right, you can vote to reverse it. That could take a lot longer to have happen.
I like the sunset idea. I heard you say that you don't have a computer system
We don't have,
that manages the number of people you have. Is your system so antiquated?
I don't even have a system like that. I have an Excel spreadsheet that I do the budget with.
Does our human resources have a system?
Jim, I think they're just separate systems and none of them work well together. I think actually IT, we may actually be looking at getting something else. I mean, we don't have something right now.
And they cost
A
money.
lot of manpower to get these answers. And by the time they get it, probably 4 other people quit and 3 other ones were hired by the time they actually come to tell you. So we're not trying to, keep it from, it's very difficult for us to do it right now. That's all I guess I'm going to say. So We do know the number of people, and I monitor, I mean, I've said it every year, I mean, if this department budget's 24 people, the next year it should be 24 people, or I better be able to find resolutions that said, we added to the department, we added, now there's 25. Oh yeah, in March, we told so-and-so they could add a person, deputy or whatever it was. So, I guess it was my 2 cents to add in the exploration.
Thank you for that explanation.
All right, so I guess personally, I need more information. I'd like to, I think and I can't even speak tonight. I would like to talk to the former chair and the current chair to get their input as well as the county attorney's office. So I think some further discussion is needed on this. I think there's all good points, and the discussing it in general is a good look. But again, I just don't want to jump to any conclusions. Having said that, any more comments, questions, things you?
Pulling
That's
the
right.
resolution.
What?
So are you pulling the resolution?
No, it's for discussion only. It was not, yeah. That's all.
The two questions I had, were one related to us passing this resolution and expire at the end of the year. That made no sense to me, but it sounds like that's the sunset clause you just explained and the reason for it. Personally, my preference would be to not have to do that every single year. If we're going into an economic hardship or if we're trending, we can revoke it at any time, right? That clause seemed a little, what's the point of even doing it then? And then my second question was, say a department head, for instance, has a key person that has retired, resigned for whatever reason in October. Or how are they impacted by this house?
Well, if this resolution that's in draft passed,
Right.
then the department head would have the ability to fill the position, because I'm assuming it's still budgeted. They would have the ability to fill the position probably fairly quickly, because as you know, it may take 45 days. I'm being a little bit slow, but it might take 45 days to get the resolution through the cycle and then start the hiring process. So we put them ahead of the game, but they would have the ability to hire. And that person would, assuming that position was in the next year's budget, that position would still be filled and budgeted. That answer the question?
Yeah, I guess so. I just had a quick look at it, so I'm not really,
Understood.
haven't done too much in depth, but those are the two questions I had for now.
Mr. Chair, are you putting this on for next month's committee?
Yeah, please. Let's, so we can have discussion between now and then. And if it reaches, let's call it critical mass, then we can entertain a resolution next month if that's the decision of this body. Sound good? Okay.
Can I say one thing? Just because Trish just made me think of it. I mean, that's actually a very good question, because if it's November and the position gets filled and then it's unbudgeted, you're gonna delay the person off. And so sometimes, a lot of times we've held on filling positions in November and December until the budget passes. And those are things to think about. That is a management tool that we use. So I know to maybe especially some newer legislators, it seems like it's an awful lot of work and it's micromanaging, but there are bigger pictures, sometimes things that it is important that we have control over it. Sometimes what we've done before too, you might actually just pass a resolution that says these couple departments, the jail, the road patrol, maybe one other one, they can fill without, because if they're critical mandated levels of staffing, that's a different thing, but there's lots of different ways you could do this to make some of the work go away and still keep some decision-making power amongst yourselves. I mean, it's just something to think about.
Okay, thank you. So good, we got some talking points and we'll move forward with this. Thank you, Mr. Westfall.
Anytime.
Thanks, Lynn.
Okay.
All right, Sue Dwyer is not present tonight. She has some things going on. If anybody has any concerns, well, actually, I should probably stay out of this. So ask Sue if you have any questions. Good on the clerk's office. All right, moving on. Mr. Bunn?
Yes. You have my report. If you have any questions on that, I'd be. Yes.
Tom, last night, the sheriff talked about a program
He's got-
and he deferred to you with some of the questions we had. You may have heard some of those
I did.
questions. Did you come prepared?
Yes, I
don't
did.
Need to repeat myself.
No, I can give
Perfect.
you the overview.
Okay.
Yeah, we were gonna go with that after the questions and then, right?
Yep.
We're just gonna, so questions not related to, what was that?
Safe half, yeah.
You got a question not related to safe? No questions?
Yes, I do. I noticed you were mentioned Microsoft 365 collaboration suite.
Yep.
Can you just talk a little bit about that? What is that?
Yes, so basically, we have come to the point with our Microsoft Office 365 project where we migrated all of our email. So that's been completed. Now, the next step is to roll out Microsoft Teams, which is the collaboration
Okay,
platform,
gotcha.
and OneDrive. And so next week, I'll be communicating some information regarding training for everybody. We'll have some videos, some on-demand videos, but we'll also do some one-to-one trainings here in the caucus rooms over the next several weeks to go over both platforms. But essentially, it'll provide that collaboration space for departments and legislature and countywide. I should say. And it'll also help alleviate the need to, I guess, rely on our shared drives, home directories, everything can now live in the cloud securely. So it takes that reliance off the VPN as well. So there's just a lot of benefits to moving to these platforms, and I'll have some, like I said, information coming on training and next steps.
Will that help with the remote work policy at all in terms of?
In terms of the policy, I mean, it just, I guess it relieves a lot of stress on the end user trying to connect and navigate through the VPN. A lot of times it does help alleviate the need to access your, it's right here, essentially. You open a web browser, you can access all your files. So it makes things a lot easier and to collaborate with your department remotely.
Will the legislature have one?
Yes, everyone has accounts. Yep.
Thank you.
Of course.
All right, any other questions for Tom not related to Safe Watch? All right, proceed, sir.
Right. So as the sheriff brought his resolution up last night, the Safer Watch is basically an emergency response application. And there are four main components to the application. There's a tip and suspicious activity reporting module, threat assessment and prevention, a mobile panic buttons alert system, and mass notification and emergency alerts. Those first two, his office are going to be kind of taking and running with. As far as the last two, the mobile panic button and the net mass notifications, that's something that I'm going to be implementing countywide. So just to provide some more information on the mass notification system, it's going to allow us basically to push out mass communications, not only countywide, but it's also going to give individual departments the ability to communicate to all staff within their individual departments. So what my plan is to integrate this utilizing a module within the Human Resources Department. Now we can pull in all of our active employees on a nightly basis into this application to make things a lot easier. Our information's up to date and it's accurate. We'll also have the opportunity to phase out another mass notification product that we were using down in, I believe EMO had been managing it over the last several years. It's called Everbridge. So we will be able to phase that out and save the county money in the process. So that's the mass notification module. The mobile panic button. We have panic buttons installed in various departments throughout the county, mental health, DSS, et cetera. A lot of the buttons themselves or the systems are kind of widespread. They're different vendors. A lot of them are outdated and antiquated in their functionality. meaning that I know of one application specifically, it relies on a client server installation, basically meaning that our security has access to the app. And if the app isn't open on their desktop, they don't receive the security alert. So it's very antiquated and it relies on a lot of things to function normally. These panic buttons will integrate directly with the Safer Watch app. It'll all be communicated up to the cloud. If a mobile panic button is hit, we can configure it to notify 911. When 911 receives that message, they'll have the GPS coordinates, basic demographic information on the caller, a lot of useful information where we don't have that functionality currently. Allow us to terminate those existing contracts and implement something that makes sense for the county and save money in the process. So if there's any other questions I didn't cover, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Mr. Basile?
Oh, no, he answered it with the EMO because they have a thing. So I was wondering, we're gonna have duplication. How do we? Okay. So thank you.
So the program is remote, robust enough to handle what any department comes to you with as a potential need. That was one of the things that the sheriff just didn't know about.
Yeah, so basically all of our employee information will be imported into the system, like I said, on a nightly basis. It'll all sit under an umbrella and then we can kind of carve out access per department. So the department head will, or the designee will have the ability to communicate to their staff on demand. And the system can all handle that. It's a web-based application hosted remotely in the cloud. So there'll be no resource issues.
The sheriff also noted that there was the capability for citizens to sign up. And would that be program wide or there shuts for certain notifications?
Yes, exactly. So we would split the communications out from staff to our citizens, if you will. Yes. Yep.
This Heidi almost maybe answered my question, but I was just curious, are these features available to employees off the clock? For instance, the panic button, an employee is in a situation, maybe they're not working, but they're in a situation where they don't feel safe.
Yep.
Can they utilize that?
That's a great question. So it's my understanding that the employee will have two roles. They'll have their citizen role and then they'll have their staff role. So as a citizen, yes, you could hit the mobile panic button. It would alert, our 911 dispatch, et cetera.
Sorry.
Yep. It's got some really cool technology and functionality on the back end, meaning that if this came to fruition, the sheriff envisioned the 911 dispatch center to have a person that would take those calls and you can initiate two-way video and things like that to get real-time emergency information at your fingertips. So it really cuts down on the response time as well, is what they noticed in all these.
The only issue is whether we'll have anybody that can respond.
As we discussed last night. Any further questions for Tom? Anything else, sir? Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
I believe Mr. Swab with Veterans is our final department, and
I'm here.
go ahead, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. So report as submitted. And I've been in training with the IVMF hosted a symposium on peer-to-peer mentorship the last 2 days. And I was in on that. And it was encouraging and discouraging at the same time to see that across the veteran spectrum, we all have one of the same issues, is ensuring that veterans are aware of their benefits and then getting them to reach out when they need assistance. And I have a great example. I got a call yesterday afternoon from a Vietnam era veteran, an Air Force veteran, who called and said he only recently found out he could be eligible for either a pension or compensation. And I talked to him a little bit, and he's coming in tomorrow. But he was part, when we did the mailing for the Veterans Day event last year, he would have gotten that letter, but either he didn't see it or didn't catch his eye and it just went into the trash. I don't know, but I'm glad that he has now called, and he has some conditions that could be presumptive. He was in Guam, which was a new presumptive location for Agent Orange exposure. So that's really our focus, is to just get out as much as possible to have these veterans just check to see if they're eligible for benefits. And that's the purpose of, we're doing a mass mailing to the veterans who currently claim the tax exemption, just to ensure they're aware of the benefits, and hopefully they're talking to other veterans as well and getting word of mouth. So that's really our focus right now. We're going to have our veteran appreciation picnic, get people to come in, listen to some information. And again, the main goal is to spread the word, but that's really our focus right now. And looking long range is the wall that heals coming in September, which could bring people from obviously out of the county as well, but really focusing on our largest population, which is the Vietnam veterans. So I think that's all I've got. If there's any questions.
This is Legislative Basile District 1. It's not really a question, just a statement to say thank you for sending the representative up to the fishing day for the Wounded Warriors. He came up for the dinner Friday night and talked to a number of the veterans and passed out some information. And I think some of them were not aware of what they might have available to them. So thank you for sending up a representative that Friday night.
That's exactly the kind of thing we want to just get out there and talk to veterans and get them connected to what they could be eligible for. So if anybody else has something, please let me know, and we will work on attending.
It's helpful. So.
Any other questions, comments for Mr. Swab? All right, hearing none. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Kev.
Any further discussion? Any topics you want to bring up? Concerns, questions?
Did I do anything?
I totally did. Thank you. Yeah,
That's tonight.
good thing you did that, because now I can remember that Fred said they're switched up. So they're both community college resolutions. As I understand on the agenda, they're sort of backwards. So 2 is 3 and 3 is 2. If that makes sense.
That makes sense.
All right. So we'll start with GO2, which is approving the 23-24 budget for Cayuga County, Cayuga Community College. Can I have a motion, please? A motion and a motion by Mr. Petcher and a second by Ms. McNabb Coleman. Discussion on the community college budget. Hearing none. All in favor of GO2?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. So now GO3 is approving the collective bargaining agreement between the Cayuga Community College Faculty Association and the Community College for the period of September 1st, this academic calendar. Motion, please.
Nightingale, move it.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the agreement? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Now,
Good evening. I just appreciate your support on both of them. I am Kelly Albrecht, the CFO for the college, and we, on behalf of Dr. Durant and ourselves, we really appreciate your support.
thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, Kelly.
All right, any further business? Not gonna ask twice. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Cool. All in favor? Have a good night, everybody.
5 minutes planning, 5 minutes.
Fred, I wasn't even close to the record.
No, not even.
Oh,
I got long-winded.
Got burned.
I got long-winded.
Next, you're gonna be able to turn.
Chambers is unmuted, just so everyone knows.
Okay, thank you.
Is this one we?
Call the meeting to order, please. Pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance.
To the flag
of the United States of America
and to the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Entertain a motion for the minutes to approve.
Move it, Basile.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I'm a little slow.
Move speed.
You're rusty. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Carried. No appointments. Then we have Mr. Lynch report.
Good evening, everybody. I provided you with a pretty detailed report, so I really don't have more to add to that report, and I'm very happy to answer any questions if you have anything on the projects I have outlined. And I do have 2 resolutions tonight. PL1 is a relatively routine sort of administrative resolution, and PL2 is to fill a new vacancy in the department.
Okay, question?
Just a quick question. Have you guys looked at trail connections from like Auburn up to Fort Byron? Or I don't know if that's been anything. I know there's pieces of like trail bed there.
There are pieces that I don't know that there is a direct trail from Auburn, like downtown or in Auburn,
Yeah.
out to the Weedsport, Port Byron area. There certainly is some real significant connections that are being made between that area and Fairhaven.
Right.
We're kind of following the lead of Doug Delastrito and his team, you know, what his priorities are.
Gotcha.
And I have asked staff to kind of try to update the trail maps so that they're better looking on the, you know, the Parks and Trail website, and we're working on that.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering, I know we're voting on a trail connection tonight and we have an amazing trail system. So it's good to.
Any other questions for Steve? PL1, Steve?
PL1 is just a contract for the Fairhaven community, what's called the Community Connection Trail. We went through a process. We want to hire the consultant, and it's within the grant budget. And we're asking for its support.
Okay, entertain a motion to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
Nice. Okay, all in
Thank
favor?
you.
For Mr. Basile?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. PL2, Steve.
PL2 is authorization to fill a planner position, which will be vacant as of this Friday afternoon at the end of the day. It's a entry-level planner position. This gentleman, I think I mentioned last month, is moving on. I think he's moving up to Toronto, Canada, dual citizenship. And he's going to look for something that's not as publicly facing in the planning field, maybe more in the academic research area. So I'd like to fill that position. It's a budgeted position. It's open. There's work that's being done. We've got people trying to transition into the field to finish the projects that are open right now.
Any motion?
Second.
Is that you, Christina?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay,
Thank you for your support.
thanks, Dave. Kelly? Or is it, did I miss?
Good evening, everybody. You have my report in front of you. I will briefly touch on some of my points throughout the report. The first thing that I highlighted is we're continuing to go through lease negotiations with the New York State Department of Labor through the Office of General Services. I did submit some information to Brittany and Fred today our business proposal terms to submit to OGS. Once I get the approval on that, I'll send that forward, but that's one of the first steps in the process of lease negotiations with the Department of Labor. It's quite a cumbersome process, much more cumbersome than I ever expected. But that's the New York State Department of Labor is definitely cumbersome. The second point in my report, unfortunately, the MOU did not get signed. I think I've talked about it almost every single month. It's still sitting somewhere to be signed, and therefore June 30th, Access VR had to officially physically move out of our space. The two counselors that are displaced are very upset because it's a hardship for their customers to even get to our center at times. And they're housed out of Syracuse. So right now they're trying to meet with people in parking lots and at Dunkin' Donuts and the library or whatever to be able to serve their customers. I have extended the warm welcome for them to continue to come into our center and serve their customers regardless of them paying rent or not. So they can choose to do that. But that is something that, that we're trying to work on. I've been told there is some movement. We had a walkthrough with the New York State Department of Labor on Monday. We had two visitors from, I call it Building 12 in Albany, that oversees, they're basically our funders for employment and training funding that operates our program and our staff. They came through and they walked through the center, and I did ask them, since I had a captive audience right there, is what is going on with the MOU? It's not been signed. We've lost a service provider. We're doing a disservice to our customers. And what I was told is it's moving. The state needs to sign it. And after that, it has to still go to all of the partners and then to the chairman. So it doesn't sound like it's going to move along as fast as I hoped, but we'll continue to forge through on that and see where that lands. But we're working on it.
Mr. Chairman? Yeah, we've been working with Kelly on that for months now, and it's been in Albany for 3 years. Is that correct?
That's correct.
3 years
That's
been
it?
sitting in Albany.
Just a
Yeah,
little bit.
that's
We
it.
don't run a business like
Yeah.
that.
But I didn't know about Monday, so hopefully they'll be working on it a little
Yes.
bit more diligently.
Yes, and there are 20 offices affected by this, so it's not just Cayuga County. But it's a known problem throughout the state. And hopefully it does, this is their busy time for Access because they're enrolling students into college. And this is when they're meeting with the bulk of their clients, other than the high school kids, which they would normally see in school. So it is still a challenge, and hopefully we can figure something out.
Kelly, if that is signed within who knows what period of time, will these people come back? Are they found a place already?
So I did speak to Patrick Shepard, who is the manager and my contact person. If they can't guarantee me that they'll come back or that they'll move with us. So unfortunately, this really did put a hinder in our concept of one stop. But if they find somewhere less expensive, they'll probably stay there.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
What was that? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, ladies first.
Okay.
That doesn't work here.
I might not have seen your hand up.
I'll just ask my question.
Thank you.
If I can even remember what it is. Do you have a sense, Kelly, of like the volume of residents impacted that take advantage of Access VR services that are now not able to go to the one stop?
Not off, I can find that out
I'm
for you, but
interested
not
in
off the top of my
knowing
head.
that it's pretty high.
It is. It is.
I don't have any state reps been engaged to try to move the process along at all?
Yes, and Chairman Gould and Aileen, I believe, have been in contact with Senator May's office. And there has been some, pressure, but it hasn't really done us a whole lot of good.
Thank you.
So when you offered to them to join you, even though they weren't paying rent, in the same breath, you were saying they were meeting in parking lots and different places. What was their objection to doing that? Or were they being told by Department of Labor they can't sit in that space?
No, they're not being told by the Department of Labor. So when I extended that to the voc rehab counselors, I honestly think that they have some resentment towards their management, and maybe it's to prove a point that they're upset. I think that when the storm calms down, because it really truly has been an upset for them. And, I think when that calms down and they, have a little more clarity, they'll probably take advantage of my offer. But what happens is with access, the MOU is what basically puts on paper the partnership between all entities in the Career Center. And they have designed a rule. Basically, they've come up with a rule that they cannot enter into any lease agreement with a WIOA partner. So they can lease, because my question was, how can you lease somewhere else? But the MOU is basically stating that to be part of our infrastructure, they cannot rent from us unless this is signed, but they can choose to go somewhere else. So it just, I don't know. It's just very frustrating. It's very frustrating because they need to be with us on site, because that's, it makes sense. And that was the design. But just this document is really just impacting so many things. Yeah. So they can enter into a lease, just not with us at this point. Right there. So moving forward on that, it feels like employment training is going through many audits. I think we're audited every single week. I'm trying not to take that personal. Just kidding. But right now we're going through an audit through Drescher and Malaki. I think it's an external audit. They're looking at our WIOA program, which is grant funded. They're doing a fiscal plus a program audit. So we provided them the information that they needed. And then they came back with some questions and some more information. So we have that out there. I haven't heard anything back on that. But I'm pretty confident that they'll have the answers that they need that will be positively reflecting what they need to look at. We also just went through our annual financial management review with 0 findings. The report was sent to Chairman Gould. I'm proud to say that we've really made a lot of strides in our program and fiscal component of our program. So 0 findings, which is not easy when you're looking at federal regulations. So I'm proud of our department and that report. So happy to report that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. The next thing on my report, summer youth employment program. So that's one of our youth programs. We have 3. That is probably one of our biggest, but one of our quickest. So we started that this week, actually, the paid work experience. We have employed 62 youth as seasonal employees of employment and training. So thank you to Human Resources for bearing with us with all the drug tests and everything that we're sending through there. In a matter of a couple of weeks, we have onboarded 57 summer youth, and we have 5 all year round kids working currently. 25 work sites for the summer. Thank you to 3 county departments this year that are participating and employing our youth. We have the Cayuga County Health Department, the Historian's Office, and of course, Buildings and Grounds, who've always been very supportive of our summer and year program. So I thank the county departments for that participation this year. We do have 18 work sites in Auburn. We have 1 in Cato, 3 in Moravia, 1 in Port Byron, 1 in Red Creek, and 1 in Union Springs. We do visit the kids every single week to see how they're doing, provide case management, financial literacy, and of course, talk with the employer as part of a mentoring program to prepare these kids. We have a lot of 14 and 15-year-olds. And as you can imagine, 14 and 15-year-olds working 30 hours a week at a job site times 62 is definitely a very intense program for all of us. So we're moving forward with that. Did visit Loretto yesterday, and there was a success story I just want to briefly share with everybody here with one of our summer youth that we had placed there last year in the kitchen. They hired full-time and she's still there. So a year later, our youth is now in suitable, sustainable employment, working as an employee of Loretto. So obviously the goal is to get these kids some work experience and honestly get them a paycheck. This is income eligible, 200% below the poverty. So they definitely use that, need that money, use that money. But for some of the older youth in our program, this can potentially become their job, for the next step, the future. So I'm very happy with that. And Loretto has been very, very, very supportive of us in our program. And we've had some rocky roads there and they haven't given up on us. So I'm very happy about that. Next thing I want to highlight is Nucor Steel and our partnership. We have developed a great relationship with Nucor. They've utilized us for some assessments in the evening, utilized our space, one of the business services we provide. We are going out there in a couple of weeks to do some workshops for them on site at Newport for interviewing and resume building for their internship program, and some financial literacy. So we're very pleased that they've invited us in. It's been hard to kind of get into Newport for us because they've never really needed our services, just because they've always had so many applicants, and they never really needed us, so to speak. With the worker shortage that all employers are facing, not just the small employers, but large employers as well, they're accessing our services more, and I'm very happy about that. So 2 of my staff will be going on site to Newport to do these workshops, and glad to be doing that. Last thing I just want to touch on Micron, our Micron employment work group. We did meet on Monday. We're meeting every month, I will say, and Mike Miller and Stephanie are both in the room. I think these meetings have generated some great conversations, great talking points, good roundtable discussions. This one we just had on Monday, I had invited Catherine Dennis from the United Way to talk about the ALICE population, because when we talk to Micron and when I talk to them, when I go to the regional task force meetings and they say, where are we going to tap into these people to work? So we talked about the ALICE population in that meeting, and I decided to bring someone in to talk about that, because not even my staff included aren't necessarily educated on what that means. They are. So she came in, she did a great presentation, and it triggered a lot of conversation that we've been talking around, which is, what are some of the biggest barriers for employers, which would be an employee in the workforce, would be transportation, childcare. Those are huge, huge barriers. And, it doesn't discriminate against the ALICE population. So a lot of these conversations have come up on that, and really getting employers to buy in and invest in their staff, because they have to be part of the solution. We have employers asking me every day, where are the people? What are you doing to help these people? Why are you not sending people to us? Well, then we need to turn it around to the employer. Well, what are you doing to get people to want to work for you and stay working for you? They need to have some buy-in. We're seeing it with Loretto with their diaper program, and they did an in-house training program for their staff where they could be trained on site, be working, and then employed with them. We need to see more of that if employers want to see changes. We can't make those changes without them bringing something to the table, and that's just the way it's going to happen, the way it's going to work. Different things like daycare on site, perks that employers are going to have to give to help some of the shortcomings that our folks have in order to be able to hold and get a job and keep a job and stay there. So that was what we did at this past Micron meeting. We'll continue to meet every month. Next month, my plan is to have a speaker come from Central to talk a little bit about some of the transportation barriers that we're facing in this county. Definitely impacts the ability for people that are living in the northern and southern ends of the county to get to Auburn, where a lot of the jobs are for these people. So that's the plan for next month, would be Central and some topic on transportation. We're also continuing to work on our asset inventory, the current state of Cayuga County and what we have to offer and where our shortcomings are in terms of workforce. And we are continuing to work on that every day. Sorry, that was long. I will entertain any questions that you have.
Any questions? Trish?
That was a great report.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you're doing. It's awesome. I was just curious with that asset inventory, is that available to look at? Will there be a report or, sorry, there's a fly.
No, I had one over here too. I was trying to, we're more than well, we definitely want to share that. We've had other people ask us. I have one staff person that's she's really taken it under her wing, and she's not ready to share it quite yet, because it's a work in progress. But we can certainly share components of it. It will be something that we will share. It will always be a fluid working document that we'll add to. We have, a lot of information on there. We've added some tourism information on there, some service provider information. It's going to be a tool for, it's really a tool for anybody in the industry. It's a tool for service providers, can be a tool for job seekers, can be a tool for businesses. So absolutely, as we move forward with it, I would share it with everybody for sure. Thanks, Kelly. Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your vacation.
Oh, thank you.
Wait, what? Mr. Miller?
Good evening, everyone. I believe everyone has a report, so I'm going to go through some of the highlights here for you. Through June of this year so far, the number of existing businesses we've assisted is 41. Number of entrepreneurs we've assisted is 71. Our specific locational breakdown for assistance for the month of June specifically was 8 in Auburn, 1 in Aurora, 4 in Moravia, 3 in Cayuga, village of Cayuga that is, and 1 in Union Springs. This is again saying with Ms. Patty Feeney's request to provide this locational breakdown throughout the year. So I think that's actually been helpful on our efforts as well to ensure that we're dispersing throughout the county. Moving along here, some updates over this last month. The Small Business COVID-19 Grant Program finished up on June 12th, and our staff has worked through evaluations of acceptable applicants and continuing to work with that committee to get those awards out as designated. We made a presentation to the Auburn City Council, and this was really a reintroduction of updated information we've been putting together within CETA and our services that we provide, as well as our impacts. This is one of a developing presentation that we're working on sharing with the broader community here, and it's something we actually want to live on our website as well. So it provides anybody who's interested to have a very good understanding of who CETA is, what we do, and how we've been able to assist the community here. Paul Vigiano and Lauren LaGreca joined the tourism office over this last month in the familiarization tour. I believe the specific areas was Montezuma and Weedsport. So it was great to hear from them of what that was like. And that's also part of our efforts to not only partner with our regional neighbors, but to also make sure we're being present throughout the county here. We also have members met with Lisa Carr from the Seymour Library here in Auburn to discuss areas of partnership for our specific programming needs. One of those that we've been contemplating is kind of a small business workshop moving on in the fall, but again, that's a bit high level and theoretical at the moment. We did host representatives from the Community Development Block Grant to provide information on their areas of funding and uses here. Our specialist Maureen Reister is the go-to person as she helped organize all of that there. So if anyone's interested, I would certainly encourage you to reach out to her. Select sites, we've worked with Central New York Regional Planning, being David Botar, as well as Steve Lynch in his office, to include in the regional site profile database. This hasn't been updated in a number of years. But the importance of it is this helps market some of the larger properties within Cayuga County for industrial development use. So that's something we're hoping to have done by the end of this year. The note I had when I had sent this out is that we were continuing to await final approval from the EDA to proceed on the sewer project. I'm very happy to say we have finally received a notice to proceed on the sewer project. So with that being said, we can now begin ordering equipment and start putting shovels in the ground. So it's a long time coming. It was great to get that information last week. We are intending to apply again for the Fast New York Grant program for a potential IDA site we have right now. These grant monies would provide the IDA the ability to conduct full site review and preparedness readiness for overall new company attraction here. Another news on our CETA Spark series, we hosted Dan Kalinsky from Empire State Development. He's the current acting regional director for ESD. He came in to discuss the consolidated funding application. And from that, we had heard from some representatives looking to attend to have a direct conversation with Mr. Kalinsky. The villages of Aurora, Cayuga, and Union Springs are working on a joint application for the New York Forward program. So our office, along with members from Mr. Lynch's office, that being Carrie Terwilliger, have set up a meeting with representatives from every one of those villages, meet with Dan Klinsky in person next week to really address questions specifically for the program that he can answer directly there. Continuing with this Spark series here, we did host Melody Johnson, decades of experience in HR, and it was great to have her there and discuss the importance of that for any one business. One of our upcoming sessions is going to be featuring energy. We're looking to have a representative from Franklin Energy come in and discuss what they're able to offer for businesses there. Encourage anybody to visit our website, sign up for attendance on that. Over this last month, also met with representatives from Alstom in the city of Auburn as well to discuss and actually tour the former Bombardier site. It's in rough shape, exactly as it looks there. So a lot of what's being discussed between Alstom as well as their sellers reps is what is best use moving forward there. And I think what's been great learning, at least with the one representative from Alstom that I've gotten to know, is how engaged they are of seeing this facility get put back into productive use. The grant that the city of Auburn has through this Restore New York program provides the city some sway in how who the next owner is. So having worked with Jeff Tiger and Ginny Haynes in particular, as well as some other city council members, is how engaged they are to see this really, really get back into productive use. So very encouraged on that front there, but it is certainly a process. I don't know. The last point I have here is that Maureen Reeser and I will be meeting with representatives from Center State CEO to discuss ongoing areas of collaboration and coordination as we're trying to make sure we're coordinating with the larger regional EDO in the area, specifically on site development, as I mentioned earlier, applying for this grant program and attraction efforts as well for Cayuga County. So I'll have it there.
Do you have a question, Mr. Chairman? Yeah, Mike, as far as the grant for Cayuga Milk, is there any time frame for that? I know you said shovels in the ground soon, but is there a time frame?
Yeah, so I was very surprised to actually hear the EDA get back to us and say, you're good to get moving forward. We got that information late last week. So I'm looking for an updated time frame from our chief engineer on the project. We do have a contractor selected for everything. One of the larger challenges we have is because it's been so delayed getting this through, we were hoping to start this project back in November and then potentially February of this year. So myself and certainly IDA board is anxious to see this thing moving along. We're hoping to have it done by the end of the year to move through this project here. For the milk plant themselves here, they've been going through different discussions based on their updated application. They certainly have everything they need from the IDA, but they also have to go back to the town of Aurelius and provide some updated plans for approval there. But nothing at this time has given me any reason to suggest that it's going to hold up their project and moving forward or impede their plans on their very large expansion project.
I'll tell you, that's great to hear because we need stuff like that in their county. They still talking like 90 employees, do you know?
Yes.
Really?
That's
90 new employees.
90 new employees on top of roughly the 90 they currently employ.
Great. That's good news. Very good news.
It's a very exciting project.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Questions for Mike? Hans?
Any news or any information on what's happening south of us with this major plant being built in Lansing?
I have not heard about that in particular. Whereabouts in Lansing?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking. Supposedly it's a switch. I take a chip manufacturing plant. We talked $100 million or something like that. So sounds like a major enterprise.
This is in Lansing?
Is it Lansing or is it Ithaca? I heard.
That's Tompkins County, which is.
It's in Lansing, yeah.
I'll look into that and get back to you.
Bobby? Oh,
I appreciate your report. Thank you for everything you're doing. I was just curious if you had an update. I know you've been out negotiating with private landowners and trying to do some assembly for sites and stuff. Did you have any updates on that?
We do have a kind of a star site right now. It's, I'm not at liberty to share what it is. We're actively trying to get some more information from the landowner. What we have received from them right now is permission to apply for the Fascinating Work program. So it's very encouraging to have that from them because it shows a willingness on their end to see the site that they currently own put into, productive use for development on that end. And we also feel, given its proximity and size and location, that it would be a very attractive parcel. That being said, that's just one site, and we're continuing to have discussions with other property owners. But again, this is where I think the work that Stephen, his office did to help aggregate what makes the best sense, and a lot of information went into that. We were looking at very specific acreage, what's its water and sewer capacity, access to major throughways, all of that there, and then drilling down into who actually owns it. How do we get to that? And so it's been a process going through that, but we do have some very good leads right now. And one in particular is I'm very encouraged by.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Oh, sorry.
To off of Trish's question. And understanding that you can't really tell us, is it Auburn area? Is it north? Is it south? Do we have an idea where the
North of Auburn?
Okay. That's all. Just kind of curious.
And the reason we're trying to keep it somewhat confidential,
You don't, yeah.
well, I'm happy to share this for anyone in the room, is knowing that prices are getting jacked up because of Micron and everything else.
Yeah.
We've worked really hard to try to keep our work confidential, and the last thing we want is somebody else moving in. And we're really looking for IDA control of the land as best possible, because then we're able to take advantage of grants and site readiness that a private developer might not be able to. And we also have more control to say, here's the type of company we want to attract to Cayuga County, rather than anyone coming in. We want very good paying jobs, someone who's going to be committed to a community at large. So that's one of the things that's really been at the heart of it for us there. Hopefully that answers some there. And we also did, it's not a done deal either. Right, so right. Once it becomes, God willing, it does become something we're able to option with the landowner, then it becomes public, and I can share that openly.
It's not done until it's signed.
That's right. Thank you, Mike. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Hello, Doug.
All right, good evening, everybody. Here as well. All right, just a couple things. You guys got the report. Hopefully you had a chance to check it out. It is construction season and grant writing season, so I got to commend our staff for pulling both of them off at the same time. It's not easy. WQIP is due at the end of the month, and then CRF is due August 7th, and the weather is still pretty conducive to getting projects implemented and on the ground. So everybody's going pretty crazy. It's good because you can get a lot done in the office when there's not a lot happening. But I'll get to the topic that everybody's probably wondering: where's the weed boats? Where are they now? Where are they going? And what about the second one, right? So where are the boats now? We're finishing up Cayuga Lake tomorrow. We're gonna bring it back to the office, do minor maintenance routine type of stuff, get it cleaned up. Then we'll hit Lake Como for the day and a half we usually cut there. Then we're gonna hit Owasco Lake midweek. Should be there by Wednesday. We'll cut around the park like we usually do, and then we're gonna head south because getting a lot of reports for the south end. The South Shore there, and then also the East Coast and Southeast Coast. So, and then after that, we'll be up in Little Soda. It's, weather dependent, and, breakdowns or anything like that, just normal equipment, routine stuff. The boat, I visited with manufacturer yesterday just to find out where are we with it. I know we thought we were going to have it ready to go for harvesting season, but it's harvesting season and it's still in the shop. So He's still waiting on a fitting and a part to come in. Everything else is ready to go. The engine oil's in it. It's just sitting there. They just got to attach the paddles, put this part in for some of the controls. Then we're good to go. I'm hopeful that it comes while we're on Owasco Lake we'll be on Owasco Lake for about anywhere from 15, 16, 17 days is what we typically cut. So if we're still there, we should be towards the north end. Manufacturer's out of Wheatsport. So just because it's new doesn't mean it might not break down or have issues with it, right? So we got to test it on the water. We'll have our conveyor there. Everything's within, 15, 20 minutes from the shop. So if something was to go wrong, at least he can come, we can fix it and put it under test because our conveyor will be there, trucks will be there, and we can cut weeds. But the other boat, knock on wood, is working great. Transport is working great, and trucks are working great. So we are moving through. Didn't find a lot of weeds early, but we found a lot lately, and calls keep coming in.
So I need to get more people from Little Sodas to call to get bumped up. So we're not getting weed cutting in August when the season's half over.
Well, like I try to put it on the emails, right? All the weeds grow at the same time in all the water bodies, right? So we only have so many people and so many boats go around. So what I try to
change that
express.
rotation, though. Wasco Lake is
Exactly.
wait once in a while we get.
Change it every year. Every year. What I try and tell everybody, just for you guys that may not know, is, we try and tell, we cut 5 water bodies, and we try and tell everybody, you're not always going to be first, but you're not always going to be last. And the 3 big ones that we cut would be Cayuga Lake, Owasco Lake, and Little Sodas Bay. Those are the ones that take a couple weeks to cut. And each of the residents, they pay a lot in taxes and want to have access to those water bodies. So what we try to do is just have everybody, and most of the time people are pretty good. In years like this, when all of a sudden it jams in at once, we're kind of stuck in track. But it's nothing new. We've been dealing with it for 25 years. And that's where we hope that this other boat was going to come in handy, so we can move through a little faster. But you got to plan and be optimistic at least. But
It seems like the weeds grew kind of fast this
year. They were slow, and then they just
jumped right up.
Despite the sun and the warmth that we had early and all that, they just dragged. And the next thing you know, they just busted out of nowhere. And despite higher water levels and things like that.
Yeah, that's what I was surprised about.
Yep.
We have a lot of weeds and the higher water levels did not.
Right.
They were, yeah.
Yeah, we were on Cayuga Lake in late May, early June, maybe, Dougie, and we didn't see anything. There was nothing. And all of a sudden,
came up early.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman? Yeah, Doug, how do you separate Cayuga Lake when you do it? Does Tompkins County do their side and Seneca County do theirs, or do you do the whole lake?
Right. So we do the east side from Great Gully to Mudbox.
Okay.
Essentially, that whole east side. The last couple of years, the Seneca County Conservation District's had some boat issues of their own. So while we're on the lake, they just ask if we can go over and help them out for a handful of days. While we're there, they supply the trucks, the conveyor. All we gotta do is cut a couple of their hot spots, and then they make do with their boat that they have. So trying to be neighborly that way, because what happens is a lot of those weeds get chopped up, or sometimes people just take it upon themselves to cut the weeds, and then those all drift to our side of the lake, especially in the northeast
So
corner.
who does the Aurora part?
Nobody cuts that far south.
Really?
So they're treating that with a hydro
Okay, all right.
chemically at this point around the pipes and intake pipes. But
Thank
in terms of harvesting and mechanical harvesting, nothing occurs there. We're just Great Gully North.
Okay, thanks. Any more for Doug? Thank you, Doug.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Doug.
If you could send those pictures to me and stuff, so I can do a little article.
Will do.
For District 1.
I'll send you tomorrow.
Hey, Dan.
Hi.
All right.
Pretty good. I don't know why it looks so orange on the camera, but.
You been out in the sun?
No, it's inside, I know, not sure. Good evening, everyone. So just a couple of quick updates on things that weren't in my report. I know in last month's report, I mentioned that we were kind of in the first stage of drought. As of last Thursday, they still had kind of the eastern section of the county up to Fairhaven as in that stage of drought. I'm pretty certain that we're out of that, or will be shortly. They issue a new report every Thursday morning, so it lags a little, but we've gotten good rain, and maybe getting to the point where a few dry days in here wouldn't be a bad thing, but luckily not as bad as our neighbors to the north or what they're dealing with in Vermont. So this time of year for us where we sort of focus on some larger events. The first one that we're working on is our 4-H Youth Fair. That'll be August 4th through the 5th at the Union Springs Fire Department this year. So we're gearing up for that. We're going to have on August 5th, having a dairy cattle show, chicken barbecue for lunch, and for the first time, at least in several decades, as anybody can recollect, we'll have a market livestock auction. And that's a program where 4-H youth raise an animal, meat animal, and it gets auctioned off at the fair, and the buyer gets meat from that, and some of the proceeds go back to the 4-H program. So we're excited to be bringing that back. And then on August, the other thing with that, pay attention to your email inboxes. We do want to, in cooperation with the Farm Bureau, extend an invitation to the legislature to for anyone who's interested to come out on Saturday afternoon about 12:30-ish and show an animal with some of our 4-H youth, learn a little bit more about what they work on throughout the year with their animals, and how they get them ready for showing at the fair. August 23rd, we're working with the New York State Agribusiness Association to have the New York State 4R Field Day at Dumont Farms in Union Springs. 4R is a nutrient stewardship program. The 4Rs are the right source of nutrients at the right time and the right rate, applying the right rate in the right place. So we're going to be looking at some of the innovative things some of the farmers in the county are doing to manage their nutrients and be responsible with that. That is a free program from 10 to 3. I think we're having lunch, which is also chicken barbecue. And if any of the legislators would like to attend, please let me know and I'll get you on the registration list for that. And then the final thing is hopefully by Monday morning, we'll have a job posting up for a 4-H issue leader. And in Cornell speak, may not be the greatest title, but a little higher level position to provide some program development, staff supervision, and overall leadership for our 4-H program. Like many of the 4-H programs across the state, in the wake of the pandemic, we have to do some retooling, re-envisioning on how we reach youth in the county through 4-H. And so a position like that will provide us a little more dedicated time and capacity to do that. And that position, at least for my budget for this year, will be budget neutral. However, I will put in the first plug in a couple of months that we may have to, as everybody's dealing with raises and things, I may have to look at that on an overall basis for the for cooperative extension. happy to take any questions.
Questions for Dan?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Is Dan, Jim Basile, just
Yeah.
going too early to be talking about if you're gonna be serving milk at the state fair?
Oh, yes, that's coming up too, Jim. Yep, so we are gearing up for that as well. I forgot, one of the points there, the fair social media people have been doing a little bit of countdown, but it's coming up in about 6 weeks now, so. We are doing that again and working with state fair folks on trying to make some little tweaks to the way we did it last year and what we incorporating some lessons learned.
All right.
Thank you, Dan.
Yep. Have a good night.
Thanks, Dan.
Hello, everyone. Claire Dunlap in for Care and Cool today. A couple of highlights. I'll keep it kind of short and sweet for you guys. Our occupancy, our ADR, and our RevPAR are all up from last year, so those are all good signs. In that same vein, the lodging feasibility study that we've conducted with RevPAR International, they've just submitted their draft to our office and our planning committee. So the next step for that would be to approve the recommendation for the final full study on that. So that's moving forward well. Not so possibly on that same vein, the additional 7% imposed occupancy tax and needs support, we don't view as a positive. Our office has written letters kind of in opposition of this bill to both Senator May and Senator John Lamont's office. It's kind of a tough area. We don't want people to get right back on that throughway after seeing some of those prices. So we want to make sure that we keep people in Cayuga County. Our solar eclipse for 2024. Media inquiries and press inquiries have been coming in very quickly. I want to make sure that our partners are ready for it. It's on April 8th, which is a little bit early for our typical season. Prime viewing will be northern Cayuga County, so especially in Fairhaven. We want to make sure our businesses have specials, that they're open, that they're ready to receive these thousands of visitors that are going to come for this historic event. State parks also announced that they will be opening early. One of them is Fairhaven. So we want to make sure that we can supply these visitors with things to do, places to eat, and stay longer in Cayuga. We are still conducting our resident tourism survey. I saw some cards out front there. More with me if anybody wants to take them out to their respective areas. We are running this through the end of the year, so we'd still love to gather more responses from our residents on to how tourism is doing and what we can improve upon, and just get some more input. More exciting news, we've hired a public relations manager in-house, so we will be able to field the many press trips that we have coming in throughout the year and really just the information, the press that we're getting for Cayuga County and all of the wonderful things that we have going on. Our campaigns are still going. We have a few slated for the end of this year through next year. So just go beyond, Brave Women FLX, the Sweet Treat Trail, fishing, inclusive fishing, cultural tourism, treasures along the Erie Canal, and the Cayuga Lake Scenic Byway. Not on the report, I just wanted to add, in the vein of working all together, that I had just finished an accessible and inclusive tourism course through the Global Sustainable Tourism Council that I look very forward to sharing with not only tourism partners, but everybody in the county that would like to take steps towards being more inclusive and accessible. So I'm working on some things I'm going to share with CETA that we can get out. Again, I just want to make sure that we're positioning our office as a resource for our partners and for the people in the county to keep moving forward and keep thriving. Any questions?
I have one. Probably 99% of the people in our county do not know the president born in our county. No, we had a president.
Yes.
I'm guaranteed 99% of the people do not know that. I went to that opening when I was sheriff. Is there any publicity going on regarding birthplace down there?
We do have some things in the work, and again, it's things like that that we want to shine more of a light on. And now that we have an extra person in-house to be able to do so, we can highlight more of those things.
Great. I mean, not many counties get to say they have a president born in their county.
We have a lot of
No one
things that are
knows.
special here,
Yeah.
including that.
All right, thank you very much.
More questions for Claire? No, thank you, Claire. Oh, what?
Just, yeah, so.
Late, too late.
You said April 8th?
April 8th,
2024.
2024.
Right, okay, I just wanted,
That's the date of the eclipse. I don't know the opening for the park.
yeah, so I did talk to Fred Bond a little bit, and I'll get with Joshua later. Claire and I are neighbors. I'll say here, full disclosure. So, and I work with her husband as the mayor of the village, so.
He's good. Thank you.
All right, no, the 8th, that's a Monday, so.
Yeah, hoping to start an earlier season
Yeah.
with that traffic coming in. We're getting reports from destinations that have previously gone through something like this, the good, the bad, what to look out for, what to improve upon. So we're looking to put those in action as well. So kind of educating our partners and making sure that they're ready.
You mentioned the state park in Fairhaven's going to be open for that. Do you know if the campgrounds will be?
It is my hope. It's, I think, kind of on our tourism office to educate them and make sure that they are aware that this is a big event that a lot of people are travel for. And most of Cayuga County is in the path of totality. People are going to need places to stay, and they're going to want to stay as close as they can to the viewing spots, which are going to be in the north of the county. So it's definitely an education, I think, on our part to help them open earlier in the season. To see that opportunity.
I just heard the sites there fill up very quickly or well in advance.
Oh, yeah.
So
The
if
fact
there's
that-
any inside information about something being unlocked for reservations.
The reservations are open for the state park.
For that,
The
for
private
July.
parks, I'm not sure. But yeah, the state park is open for reservations.
In April.
Yep. Well, it's open now for reservations in April. It's usually 9 months to the day. And they open to the first week in July for reservations.
Okay, great. Thanks.
We know where you're gonna be.
It's a beautiful place up there.
I got a big backyard, Tricia.
I'm thinking about renting out spaces.
I probably can't do that, but.
Thank you, Claire.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
What?
I'll move it.
No resolution? Second.
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye.